I like swords. Hello everybody and welcome to today's tips and tricks video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the transporter role in the town of Salem. With this magic bus, the transporter can switch two people around in the town. Say you have yourself as number 1, and then Billy is number 2 and Mandy is number 3. You can then make Mandy become number 2 and Billy number 3 on the night. Now, the thing about transporters are they're also immune to roadblocks, so that's something you want to take full advantage of if somebody says they've roadblocked you. Now, I'm going to go over the pros and cons of the transporter and say what I think is good about them and what's bad about them. Now, the pros of a transporter are that it's a self-sustaining role. What you can do with the transporter is you can transport yourself with somebody else and prevent yourself from dying. This is good because obviously if you don't die there, you can fling somebody else into the way. This includes people who are attacking you. Say a serial killer is attacking you, you can transport yourself with that serial killer if you found him, or by complete random chance, and he will attack himself, meaning that no harm will come to the town that night. Or on a less good opportunity, you could just randomly do it. You could get one of the mafia, or you could get another town member who will die instead of you. Now, don't take this the wrong way, but sometimes it's good to do that. You don't want to give up your power in the town, as the transporter is a very powerful role, to say somebody who's like an investigator or something. If his job's done, his job's done, while you can be a changing force in the town. One really good thing about the transporter is it's one of the roles that's capable of protecting the mayor. With bodyguards being one of the only other roles that can do that, you will be key in protecting a mayor who, say, reveals first night, either for achievements or is going for the town exit strategy I mentioned in my earlier video. Then you'll basically want to make sure the mayor gets transported around the town, possibly transported with a random person each night. Obviously, you should be aware that if there's a bodyguard in the town, whoever you transport it with will be getting a bodyguard that night. Therefore, you may want to be careful to make sure you're not giving some suspicious characters some protection. Or on the other hand, if there isn't a bodyguard and you know they will be trying to kill the mayor, you could say give a suspicious character his place in the town, and hopefully he might die. Who knows? The mayor's a big target, guys. The transporter has something very nice, is that he can prove himself to individuals, not to the whole town, but to individuals. If you say are a transporter and you should whisper somebody after you transport them the night before, they will then know that you are in fact the transporter and you've proved yourself to them. This will gain you a few votes and for innocent if you should be voted up. This is really good because there's one thing that the transporter really has a problem with is that people think he's an arsonist all the time because he smells of gas. I don't know, he may just eat beans or something, but he smells of gas. Therefore, the people will think he's an arsonist, and that can give you a few votes that could give you the decisive win over a lynching. And I've already mentioned this one before, but you can cause people to suicide if they should attack you. Those are the pros. Now here's the cons. And boy, there are cons. Okay, using a transporter early game screws up all of the town. And I mean all of the town, except for a retributionist. If you start moving people around, all the investigators are null and void. They can no longer tell you who is and who isn't anything because you've been transporting everybody. They could have investigated somebody else completely to who they thought was mafia and get an innocent lynched. This is bad. You can transport yourself with somebody else and they were the target and you get yourself killed. This is something also bad because nobody likes it when you just go, oh, I'll just stop people who are probably going to kill me and then get killed yourself. It's just not good. One thing that's little known, which you wouldn't really consider but I think is a valid point, is if you start transporting people, the townies will start discussing it the day after. Now this is a bad thing, because if townies start discussing who's been transported, they'll completely ignore the fact at hand that they need to find mafia and try to find out what's going on. You'll get a day wasted, and it's pretty bad. Therefore, that's another bad thing about transporting. Also, if there's, again, major con that I've already mentioned. If there's an arsonist around and you have no way of proving yourself, you're pretty much dead if an investigator looks at you. Or if you even claim transporter when somebody says. It's not the best thing to be when there's an arsonist around. However, if there isn't an arsonist around, feel free to say you're a transporter. You'll be safe. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a couple of my tricks now that I've used when I'm a transporter. If you should say be in town and you're a quiet townie, if you randomly vote for somebody, just anybody, and then just leave it to the end of the thing and then transport yourself with them. If they were Mafia, it's very, very likely that they will attack you directly. Therefore, since you've transported with them, they could kill themselves if they're a mafioso. If they're a serial killer, they'll probably attack themselves and they'll be immune. But that's okay. However, there is one trick you can do to get around the immune killing rules, is that if you do that trick and you know a bodyguard, ask the bodyguard to protect you. Now, I know this sounds a bit weird, because once you've transported yourself, you're no longer there. But there's a really interesting thing here, that if a bodyguard protects a serial killer who attacks himself, the bodyguard will stop them from killing themselves by killing them. This is no joke, guys. It happens. So, take full abuse of that if you can. One thing with the transporter that's quite cool is you can screw over a witch. If you are, say, a transporter and you know that the witch has got a hold of, say, a serial killer or something, and you figure out who it is through logical deduction, or simply because he starts yelling, "I'm the serial killer, this witch is a bitch, get rid of her," then you can transport that person and the witch can no longer control them. At which point the serial killer will probably kill the witch out of spite, which means you've got one less problem to deal with, and you can kill the serial killer by revealing the next day. Finally, the transporter, along with the escort, consort, and the witch, are one of the few roles who can stop the arsonist dead in his tracks. If an arsonist tries to ignite himself, you can transport the arsonist with somebody else, therefore he won't be able to target himself. This means that the arsonist will then no longer be able to kill anybody, and you can protect your beloved town if you wish. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to go over about the transporter at the moment. So I've said what's good, I've said what's bad. So I'll just leave the message now that please do not try and use transporting in the first couple of nights. It statistically screws up town a lot more than it'll screw you. A lot more than it'll screw the evil guys in a balanced game. Obviously, this is circumspect. If you are in a custom-made game with less town than there is evil, then go ahead, transport to your heart's content. You might kill a few people. But I was just say, please do not screw over town as a transporter. It is a bad idea. Except if you are sadistic like me. I speak from past experience, guys. Okay, so that was the transporter and its magic school bus. I'm Magnusword2. Thank you for listening. This has been Tips and Tricks. Goodbye.